Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty fascinating in personality, that sort of middle ground between being an introvert and an extrovert.
Hmm.
We're talking about ambiverts. And honestly, understanding this might just unlock some surprising things about how you yourself operate and recharge. Think of it as exploring, your own balanced way of dealing with the world.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, we've got some really interesting sources here that really dive into what it means to be an ambivert. We'll look at how you, if this sounds like you manage your energy,
Right.
connect with people, handle your career, even tap into creativity, and, well, just understand yourself a bit better.
Okay, so for a lot of us, it's always been presented as this kind of either, hasn't it? You're either, energized by crowds or you need quiet to function.
That's the common view, yeah.
Yeah. But what's really interesting and what these sources get into is that maybe many of us are actually somewhere in between. We have this really adaptable way of engaging. So our mission today is really to understand the strength in that flexibility for you.
And what's really key to grasp, I think, is the fluid nature of it. The sources really stress that it's not like a fixed point. It's more like a spectrum of traits.
Okay.
And where you land on it can shift, depending on the situation, your mood, even just how much energy you have that day. This adaptability, for you, that's the core thing to get.
Exactly. It's not about being wishy-washy or inconsistent, right?
At all.
It's more this built-in ability to be tuned into both needing that solo recharge time and genuinely getting something positive from being with people. It's like having access to two different fuel tanks almost and knowing which one to use.
And it's so important for you to realize this isn't some weaker version of being an introvert or extrovert. The sources are quite clear. This is its own thing, a distinct personality type with its own set of advantages.
And those advantages, they sound incredibly useful for you, the listener. The sources mention real gifts like that adaptability we keep talking about, strong emotional intelligence, that knack for understanding feelings, and almost like a sixth sense for reading a room. Can you expand on that? How does that reading the room thing actually work for an ambivert? What's the benefit?
Sure. Well, imagine you're in a meeting, okay?
Right.
As an ambivert, you might pick up on subtle things, shifts in body language, maybe a change in tone that someone who's more strongly extroverted or introverted might just miss.
Okay, yeah.
And that lets you adjust your own approach.
Yeah.
You might instinctively know, okay, now's the time to speak up, or maybe better to just listen right now, or even sense when the whole group needs a quick break. It gives you a real sort of strategic edge in dealing with people socially and at work.
Okay, so let's dive into this energy idea a bit more then. The sources talk about it like it's almost an inner intelligence for ambiverts. So for you, listening, how might this inner intelligence guide those decisions? When to jump in, when to step back?
Think of it like a really finely tuned radar system. You're subconsciously picking up cues, probably, both internal ones, like feeling a bit drained,
Right.
and external ones, like maybe the environment's just getting too loud or intense. And these cues signal, okay, time to shift gears. It's not always a fully conscious thought process, maybe more of an intuitive pull towards whatever helps you stay balanced and, crucially, avoid getting totally wiped out.
Yeah.
That internal awareness is a huge part of how you manage energy.
It's like there's this constant, maybe low-level internal chat going on, like a little compass pointing you towards the right amount of interaction or solitude. But, I mean, that constant balancing act, that must be tough sometimes for you, right? The sources mention feeling overwhelmed or even guilty about needing alone time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that internal negotiation can be tricky. You might find yourself sort of pushing through a social thing even when you're running on fumes, and then you just get overstimulated. Or the flip side, you feel bad for wanting to leave or be alone. You worry you're missing out, or maybe people will think you're antisocial. The real key for you is figuring out the difference between needing genuine, healthy reflection time and just avoiding stuff because it feels uncomfortable.
So how can you, the listener, tell the difference between that healthy recharge and just, hiding away?
That's a great question. Well, healthy reflection usually feels purposeful. You come out of it with maybe some new insight or feeling genuinely refreshed or understanding something better. Avoidance, though, that's often more rooted in anxiety or fear.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't usually leave you feeling recharged or better equipped. You just still feel anxious and want to withdraw more. So maybe pay attention to how you feel after the quiet time. Are you feeling more centered, ready to engage again, or still just tense and wanting to pull back?
Right, right. And it sounds like when you, as an ambivert, really learn to listen to those energy rhythms and actually honor them, you can really thrive in all sorts of places, networking events, close relationships, teamwork, even just working alone. The sources had some good examples of this, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Like at a networking event, instead of trying to meet everyone, you might just focus on having a few really good, deep conversations.
Yeah.
That saves your energy.
Makes sense.
Or in a team, you might be really active in the brainstorming part, but you also know you need that focus time later to work through things on your own. Just recognizing what you need in different situations lets you be more effective and feel better too.
Okay, moving on to connection, how you connect with others. It's interesting, the sources really hit this point that for ambiverts, it's more about resonance than just like the number of interactions. What does that actually mean for you in terms of building real relationships?
It suggests you probably value deeper, more authentic connections, much more than superficial ones. You likely get more satisfaction from, say, a really good one-on-one chat where you feel you properly connect with someone's thoughts and feelings,
Yeah.
rather than being in a huge crowd doing small talk. It's about the quality of that connection, feeling like it resonates with you properly.
And this idea of ambiverts as natural bridge builders, how might that actually look for you in your social life? Being able to connect with both the quiet types and the more outgoing ones?
Well, because you genuinely understand and appreciate both sides, needing quiet and enjoying social buzz,
Yeah.
you can often relate to a wider range of people.
Right.
You can empathize with an introvert needing space, but you can also get on board with an extrovert's energy. So you kind of naturally become this go-between figure
Yeah.
in mixed groups.
And it seems like this lets you build and keep relationships without totally burning out. You can balance wanting connection with needing solitude, offering depth without getting swamped.
Yeah.
How does that work for you in keeping relationships healthy?
You probably develop a pretty good gut feeling for when you need to step back and recharge. And doing that stops you from getting drained by too many social things. Then, when you are engaged in your relationships, you can be more fully present, offering real emotional support without feeling, resentful or just overwhelmed. It's all about pacing yourself so those connections can last.
It's almost like you intuitively mirror the energy around you, which must be a really good way for you to build rapport, make people feel comfortable.
Exactly. You can sort of adjust your own energy level, your engagement to match the situation or the person you're with. It creates this feeling of understanding, of connection. That adaptability really helps build trust and just makes interactions smoother.
But being so tuned in, there have got to be challenges for you too, right? The sources mention feeling misunderstood sometimes, or maybe even slipping into people-pleasing. How do you navigate those kinds of pitfalls?
Yeah, that's where setting clear boundaries becomes absolutely crucial for you. Because you're naturally picking up on others' needs, you might sometimes put them way ahead of your own without even realizing it.
Right.
So learning to recognize when you need to say no or just step back for a bit and doing it without feeling guilty, that's essential. It protects your energy, your well-being. It's finding that sweet spot between being responsive and honoring your own limits.
Thinking about different relationships, friendships, romantic ones, family, work, how might your ambivert nature shape those for you? Like in friendships, do you find yourself preferring those deep one-on-ones, or are group hangs okay too?
You might actually appreciate both, depending on the context. Those deep one-on-one talks can be incredibly rewarding, right?
Definitely.
But maybe you also enjoy the energy of a small group, where you can engage, but it's not totally overwhelming. In romance, you probably value both closeness and your independence. At work or with family, you can be that steadying influence, offering a balanced view without needing to be the life and soul of the party all the time.
So ultimately, for you, that social superpower is really this knack for connecting authentically, engaging when it matters, and knowing when to gracefully bow out. It's a very mindful way to navigate the social world.
Exactly. It's about being intentional and aware in your interactions.
Yeah.
That lets you build those meaningful connections while still looking after your own energy needs.
Okay, now let's shift to your professional life. The sources strongly suggest that being an ambivert isn't a problem at work. It's actually a big plus for you. Why is that flexibility so useful in a job?
Well, your ability to switch modes makes you incredibly versatile.
Yeah.
You can comfortably go from, say, leading a team discussion 1 minute to settling down for some focused solo work the next. You adapt to whatever the project or the situation needs. And that adaptability is just super valuable in loads of workplaces.
And that intuitive reading the room, understanding the team dynamics, what's not being said, maybe sensing the mood in a negotiation, that's got to be a massive advantage for you professionally.
Oh, absolutely. You can sense when it's right to take the lead, or maybe when it's better to hang back and support someone else. You figure out how to tailor your communication so it actually lands effectively in that specific moment. That social awareness really boosts your ability to collaborate, negotiate, build agreement.
The sources really highlight your effectiveness in teams. They say you can listen well and contribute meaningfully, you build rapport, you can step up to lead if needed, but you also help make sure everyone's included. Can you give me an example? How might you handle a team project as an ambivert?
Okay, so maybe in a team project, you'd start by really listening, making sure you get everyone's ideas and perspectives out on the table, make people feel heard.
Right.
Then you'd probably offer your own thoughts, balancing speaking up with still listening. If the team seems a bit lost, maybe you'd step forward to offer some direction, but you'd also be really mindful of empowering others, letting them take ownership too. It's about balance.
And even when working alone, it's not about total isolation for you. You can hammer out those focused tasks, but you also know when it's smart to pop your head up and get feedback or ask for help. It's that balance again, isn't it? Independence and collaboration.
Precisely. You really value that quiet time for deep work, but you also get that connecting with colleagues brings fresh perspectives and stops you from just getting stuck in your own little bubble.
And when it comes to leadership, it sounds like your style is often marked by empathy, a real ability to connect with people and lift them up, knowing when to direct, but also when to empower. That sounds very collaborative, inclusive.
Yes, I think that's right. It's about leading with understanding, being tuned in to what the team needs. You can motivate and guide people well because you can genuinely see things from different angles, and you know how to balance giving direction with encouraging autonomy.
And apparently this all translates into strong communication skills too, being clear but also receptive. In negotiations, giving feedback, even presentations. That ability to connect authentically seems to really come through for you in professional settings.
Yeah, being able to articulate your own ideas clearly, but also really listen attentively to others, that makes you a pretty effective communicator all around. You can build that rapport and understanding, which is just vital for successful negotiations, useful feedback, good presentations.
But the sources do mention challenges you might face at work, maybe pressure to be constantly on in a really extroverted company culture, or maybe having to consciously fight for that quiet, focused work time. What can you do to handle those things?
For you, being proactive is probably key. Setting boundaries, communicating what you need. That might mean actually scheduling focus time in your calendar,
Good idea.
or finding a quiet corner in the office when you really need to concentrate or recharge. It's also about just checking in with your own energy levels throughout the day and adjusting your tasks or interactions if you need to.
So when it comes down to it, your ability to shift between these different ways of working isn't a weakness at all. It's actually a real strategic advantage that helps foster both innovation and great teamwork.
Exactly. Your flexibility lets you contribute effectively in so many different situations and connect with colleagues meaningfully. That makes you a really valuable person to have on any team or in any organization.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly and explore creativity. The sources have this lovely phrase describing ambivert creativity as a dance between inner reflection and outer action. For you, how does that play back and forth between your inner world and the outer world actually fuel your creative process?
You likely draw inspiration from both places, right? Solitude and collaboration. Your inner world, that reflective space, lets you dive really deep into ideas, play around with possibilities, maybe generate completely new concepts. Then your ability to engage outwardly through discussions or getting feedback helps you take those initial sparks, refine them, and actually bring them into the world.
So, on the inner world side, that's maybe the quieter stuff. A walk outside, just thinking, meditating perhaps, where those first ideas might pop up. That's your introverted side, nurturing the creativity early on.
Yes, exactly. Those moments of solitude give your thoughts room to roam, let unexpected connections happen. It's like an incubation period, letting ideas develop quietly and without distraction. The sources call it a quiet unfolding of creative potential.
But then you also have this outer world of creativity. That's where you might share your budding ideas, maybe work with others, get feedback that shapes and improves what you're doing. That's the more extroverted part kicking in.
Absolutely. And collaboration can be incredibly energizing for you creatively. Bouncing ideas off others can spark totally new angles, challenge your assumptions in a good way, and lead to much richer, more innovative results in the end. The buzz of a good brainstorm or a thoughtful critique session can actually recharge your creative energy.
And this ability to balance flow and focus, that sounds really important for your creative work. You know, that state where ideas just seem to pour out, but also being able to really concentrate hard, whether you're alone or with people. How do you tap into that balance?
You probably develop a pretty good instinct for it. Knowing when you need to just shut the door, literally or figuratively, and immerse yourself in focused work to flesh out an idea.
Right.
And knowing when it's time to step back, open up, seek input, and maybe explore things more freely with others. It's about sensing when to block out distractions and when to invite external influences in.
So this dance of creativity, it's really about finding your natural rhythm between that inner contemplation and the outer expression and collaboration.
Exactly. It's about weaving both parts of your personality into how you create, which allows for both depth and breadth in what you produce. The sources also mention that this ability to move between modes can actually help you navigate common creative struggles, like perfectionism or just keeping momentum going.
It really does sound like this fluidity is a genuine creative superpower for you.
Yeah.
It leads to work that's not just inventive, but also deeply authentic and probably reflects a more well-rounded viewpoint.
Precisely. Being able to draw from both your inner and outer resources just enriches your creative output. It gives you a unique and balanced way of approaching your work.
Okay, let's turn now to self-awareness. The sources talk about this as being almost like the compass that guides ambiverts through life's complexities. For you, how does this perhaps heightened self-awareness help you navigate your energy, your social life?
You likely have a pretty strong ability to tune into your own internal state, don't you think? Your energy levels, your moods, what you need in a given moment. And that allows you to make more conscious choices, when to engage, when it's time to retreat, how to maybe shift your approach depending on the situation. It's about being really connected to what's going on inside.
And it sounds like you're constantly sort of monitoring those internal signals, that ebb and flow of internal energy, as the sources put it, which helps you spot the early warnings of getting overwhelmed or drained. That must be crucial for avoiding burnout.
That's absolutely right. By being tuned into those subtle shifts, you can be proactive, you can adjust what you're doing, change your environment maybe to look after your own well-being. That might mean, yeah, strategically leaving a party when you feel your energy dipping, or making sure you get some quiet time after a really intense meeting.
The sources use that exact example, strategically leaving a social event when you feel yourself fading. So for you, how does that self-awareness actually inform those decisions? And how do you manage to do it gracefully without offending anyone?
Well, it starts with recognizing the signs, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you start feeling more irritable or less interested in the conversation or just physically tired. Your self-awareness lets you acknowledge those signals and say, okay, my need for rest or quiet is kicking in. Doing it gracefully often just means a polite, brief excuse, I need to head off now, without feeling you have to over-explain or make apologies for looking after yourself.
And it's also about knowing when to say yes when something genuinely excites you and taps into that extroverted side, and when to say no to protect your energy, honoring that introverted need. How do you navigate those decisions to keep things balanced without feeling like you're missing out or maybe taking on too much?
You probably find yourself weighing things up, maybe implicitly. What's the potential payoff versus the energy cost?
Right.
You might ask yourself, how engaging is this likely to be? Does it align with what matters to me? Do I actually have the energy reserves right now to participate fully and enjoy it without feeling totally wiped out afterwards? It's about making intentional choices that support your overall well-being, not just saying yes out of obligation.
The sources mention some really practical tools for sharpening this self-awareness. Things like checking in with your body. What are the physical sensations telling you? Setting those clear boundaries we talked about.
Yeah.
And just getting more comfortable saying no. These sound like really valuable skills for you to practice.
Oh, definitely. Paying attention to your body's signals, being clear about your limits in relationships and commitments, and learning that saying no respectfully isn't a bad thing. Those are all absolutely essential self-care practices for ambiverts.
And ultimately, the self-awareness, it empowers you to craft a life that really does honor both sides of your personality, making conscious choices about when to engage, when to pull back, and when to just reflect and recharge.
Yes, exactly. It's about living more authentically, in line with who you really are, and making choices that support your well-being and fulfillment in the long run. And practices like journaling or mindfulness can be really helpful ways to deepen that self-understanding even further.
So as we kind of pull all this together, the sources really paint this picture of the ambivert as someone who embodies balance, right? A harmonious fusion of opposites. It's not about picking a side. It's embracing that dynamic flow between your quieter and your more outgoing tendencies.
That dance, as the sources call it, between solitude and connection, that's where your unique strength really lies. You act as a bridge between different social styles. You adapt to all sorts of situations with, frankly, remarkable grace. You remind us all that personality isn't about rigid boxes, it's about fluidity.
Exactly. Your real gift is that ability to move between those different modes, knowing instinctively, perhaps, when to lean into that outward energy and when it's time to draw inward to renew yourself. Like you have a broader toolkit for life's ups and downs.
And the sources suggest that appreciating ambiverts gives us all a valuable lesson that balance and flexibility are actually real strength, especially in a world that often seems to push us towards extremes.
It's that understanding that wholeness comes from integrating all the parts of ourselves, doesn't it? Not from trying to squash ourselves into one single category. And that there's real power in those spaces between the quiet reflection and the vibrant connection.
Ultimately, the sources seem to conclude that life is a constant navigation of different energies and demands, and your ambivert nature really equips you to move through all those transitions with both authenticity and resilience.
So the key takeaway for you from this deep dive, really, is that your ambivert nature, that ability you have to navigate both your inner and outer worlds, is a genuinely powerful and versatile strength. You draw energy, you draw insights from both solitude and connection, and that gives you a unique edge in so many parts of life.
And it's so crucial to remember. This flexibility, it's not a weakness. It's not being indecisive. It's a significant strength. It enriches your relationships. It boosts your career. It fuels your creativity.
So here's a final thought for you to maybe mull over. Take a moment to reflect on your own tendencies. Where do you lean? Towards introversion or extroversion? Where do you naturally find those moments of balance in your own life? And maybe consider how consciously embracing a more fluid approach, really recognizing and honoring your needs for both engagement and solitude. How might that lead to a deeper understanding of yourself and maybe a more fulfilling way of moving through your world? It's all about that personal exploration, isn't it, along that whole spectrum?